Okay, thanks everyone. My name is Gonzalo Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Papumba. We are a developer of educational apps for kids under the age of 5. And today I wanted to mention a couple of experiments and learnings that we have in the last 3 years while localizing our apps and going global. And I think it's important, given all that has been said today, especially about the emerging markets that are going to be very important in the next 2 years. So hopefully you find interesting. There is a lot of data, so hope it is understandable. So I already mentioned we do early educational apps for kids under the age of 5. We focus in some certain categories like learning the alphabet, learning the numbers, and we cover some certain cognitive skills from the kids that are still learning vocabulary, like animal sounds, first words, until kids that reach the age of 5 and are ready to start school, right? So we definitely promote learning through play. Our apps are a combination of learning methods that combine a lot of gaming and interaction, especially because our audience is so small, they need to learn all the time while playing. And at last, we started the company always taking into account or with the vision of being global. We started from day 0 with a problem that I'm going to tell you in the next slide. Next slide, sorry, I have the agenda, and it has 3 parts of the presentation. First one is why we decided to go global, and all the challenges we had in the meantime. Good challenges, real fun challenges I really promote, and we'll try to transmit that these fun challenges are really good. And at last, some experiments and results that we can share with you and are very actionable points and data that we are going to share, very intimate of our kitchen, and I hope you find it useful. So first, why we decided to go global? Okay, why we decided to go global? As many of the developers here, probably not the ones that are like Cartoon Network, but more the ones that started as entrepreneurs, we found that there was a problem, especially when kids from our nephews or sons were trying to use apps, and they were basically all in English. So we had this big problem that we were trying all the time to translate what the voiceover said. And I imagine in Portuguese happened the same a couple of years ago. There were many alternatives in this specific field for the early childhood category. So we were asked all the time, and especially in these past 3 years, why would you go global? Why wouldn't you focus, for example, in the Spanish market? That we are from Argentina, so we kind of know the language, and we can make a difference on that. Or why wouldn't you focus in the US market that is more mature and you have better chances of making more revenue? So we thought at that moment that this particular issue was going to be global. Like many people from all over the world were going to use the apps in English only, and they were going to have this problem while trying to help their kids learn useful stuff like the alphabet. On the other hand, we found this opportunity 3 years ago that when we started the company, we found amazing translators and crowdsourcing services that probably 10 years ago, if we had this vision, would have been much more difficult. But at that specific moment, we found it was quite easy to get talented voiceovers in several languages. I'm going to tell you, we are localizing the apps in 15 languages. And also it was very inexpensive and also very easy to implement. So I think once you start seeing our metrics in downloads and how after localizing it started to grow, probably more than one of you will start thinking in localizing in languages like Asia or Eastern Europe and other countries. So this graph, I like it a lot because when we launched our first app, it was an animal sounds app, very simple. But we launched it already in 3 languages. It was in Portuguese, in English, and in Spanish. And as you can see, probably, Brazil was our first country in downloads for a period of 12 months. We have over 35% of the traffic coming from Brazil. Then we have around 40% traffic coming from Spanish-speaking countries. Then US about 9%. So we launched the app, and immediately we had like 84% of the traffic using their app in their native language, which was great. Like the feedback we got and the reviews were amazing because people were actually surprised that we took care of different languages in one single app. And then we have countries like, or languages like Indonesia, German, and India that were like in the long tail. But we were still like obsessed with this last statistics. We were obsessed that 60%, 16% of the traffic were using the app in a foreign language. And we said, okay, this is happening like the same happened to us. It's happening in countries like France, in countries like Italy. So they are using an app and translating the app to their kids. So what we did right after, we took like localization. That was something that has been said a lot today, like super serious. We decided to create a global team. I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to share our method to do it. We had to decide at what point which languages were going to be included, because there are too many languages and we have to make at least one cut. And the decision for us was pretty easy. We left some low languages or countries that potentially might be very good for revenue, but short in reach. And we decided to go for make a bet in the emerging countries, in emerging markets. So we cover languages like Indonesia, Arabic, Hindi, Malaysia, Philippines, all with voiceovers in those countries. Voiceovers, and well, that is like the hardest part, like to get quality voiceovers. But everything is localized. Even the logo was localized in India, and we were crazy trying to understand if we made the correct understanding. But it turned out great, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And then we knew that we were going to fail on so many levels, especially because we were facing another cultures, and well, people have different visions. Like, for example, in some countries, something that you think that is good cultural for you might be completely the opposite in another culture. So we started to check the reviews all day and started to respond and understand which were our weaknesses in our apps. And we had a lot. But we started to, after conversation, we started to improve that a lot. So this is our graphic now, 2 years later, of the same that I've shown before after localizing. So basically you can see here all the blue countries are the original languages that we already covered. Brazil is still in the position number 2, is still like in the top 3. But then we have a lot of new countries that are in the top position. And see, he's happy. Like Indonesia, it has like 10x growth in every year for us. It is massive. They are downloading the apps like crazy. And there are some other countries that we said that we are experimenting this emerging market revolution, but only the beginning. India, France, Turkey, Italy. France and Italy are obviously not emerging, but those are the countries that are now in our top 10 in downloads. And for us, it's amazing because it drives different questions. Like, for example, well, I don't want to go ahead to the presentation, but you have to think of different business models for all this variety of countries. It's not like the in-app purchases that cost $6 in the US is the same in Indonesia, because they have different acquisition power, they have different payment mentality, so it drives a lot of good questions. So what we did was we did something that we call inside the company. We did like a big audition, like an American Idol. We felt like Simon Cowell analyzing all kind of voiceovers from all over the world. And we interviewed more than 300 voiceovers because we needed to cover 15 languages. I see you're very happy because actually it was like a complete process that took about 2 or 3 months. We knew that we had to create a great team that would join us for the rest of the app, because it's like you get a voiceover that the kids like, and then you cannot change because that people doesn't work anymore as a voiceover. You have to find quality people. And then we had the other challenge, which was smaller, but still, we had to find quality translators and editors, because especially when you work in the kids industry, you need to be very delicate about everything that you say. And well, we found this good team that now is showing all our games. So final result after 400 people that we interview in this big audition, we have now a staff that works with us, 25 voiceover talents. We cover 15 languages, sorry. So we have 10 substitutes for any kind of thing. And then we have 30 translators with editors that help us review and check descriptions. We have we have all the time things that we get from the editors team review. For example, last time, a week ago, we had one word in Russian that says like child care, and there was a little symbol missing that says poison. So we get all the time this kind of situations, but it's something you can solve it quite easy. So the process took about 2 months, like I was saying, but the good thing about this is that now localizing an app for us into 15 languages, since we have all the text in the first language, it takes only 20 days. So it is very easy, and once you start thinking in the products that will be global, it's pretty easy in the technological side. It's much easier if you start thinking in being global from scratch than trying then to, start making some fixes. So this is another funny thing, because when we started, we obviously start revising everything with our ears that are Spanish. We understand a little bit of Portuguese, English, of course, and then we have a little of Italian that we understand too. So we knew that one of the challenges was to reach the same quality in all languages. For example, we said we need to reach the same quality in Malay, that is, I don't know, the crazy language for us. We don't understand anything, than in Spanish. That was our, let's say, our KPI. So we have this, we have to do a lot of understanding and reading reviews. This is a very good example of how a simple thing in the content can change a lot the reviews. Like in the Arabic language, we weren't that aware, but the pig is a very prohibited animal. Like in the culture, and especially for kids, it's like if you show the pig, you're messing up. Like, don't do it. So we got a lot of reviews that says that the app is quite good, but you cannot show this to my children. And we were, we don't want to start doing this game that we have to adapt every part of the game to every language. But the reviews kept coming, and the rating came really down until 3.9. So after removing the pig, now the Arabic language is the first in our rating. And that is something I think is a good example of how by understanding and reading reviews, you can do a massive improvement in your ratings. So, and this is how it likes in our Animal Sounds app, which is the one that has more downloads, has around 4 million by now. This is the top languages in rating. So obviously Spanish, we speak Spanish, and we couldn't believe that in Arabic or in Russian we were doing better. But I think this is a very good point to understand, and for you to know that in those languages there are many options available for kids. So the users really appreciate when you create quality content for them. So it is impossible, I think, to get a better quality than your native language, but it seems to be very even, but there is a plus because you are doing it in the language that is not very common. And well, there is a very funny example. There is Indonesia. Indonesia, as I was saying, is the first country in downloads with this app. But we have the lowest rating, it's 3.98. And after reading reviews, we understood what was happening. They used to say, Dikoba Dulu. Dikoba Dulu became like a word all the time in our head. And Dikoba Dulu means, I'm going to try the app first, and then I'm going to review. Happens that they forget to update the review. So it is a very interesting example also, because sometimes you think that you have something wrong in your app, and it's something cultural. And we ask for reviews to the users on a certain time, like in the third or fourth session. So it might be like a good idea to start thinking, for example, in Indonesia, don't ask right away, because the users have this commitment to put a review and then evaluate the app. So these are the kind of things that we are learning by using the reviews. Well, there is obvious some percentage of the people that says that the in-app purchases are expensive, but that is the main issue, the Dikobatulu. And well, at last, this is what we are more focused now, because we have the app available we have downloads from 140 countries in 15 languages. So we obviously know that it is unfair to have the same price, for example, in Germany than Indonesia, or it just doesn't work. Like the percentage of paying users is ridiculous if you have the same pricing in all. So when we knew that the new feature of the pricing tiers and the templates came out, we started testing a lot. And I have 3 things that I would like to share, like the experiments that might be some highlights. So what we did, I will explain very simple. We did a division of 3 tiers. We created a tier that was the top 15 countries in the world that spend more in gaming, and we put them in the first column. Then the second, like countries like Brazil, Argentina, that spend less than, let's say, Japan, and we put it in the second row. And then we have the other countries that spend less, that are more oriented to ads, and we put it in the third column. So basically, the first column had 100% of the price, the second 70% of the price, and the other 50% of the price. That was the experiment we were trying to understand if that made a difference. So, for example, in countries like Russia, when we did this 30% discount, we saw a 70% increase in sales. And this is like, if you start doing this on every country and start focusing, you will see that there are differences, but it is very impressive, the growth we have in Russia. Russia is one of our top 15 countries in downloads. Then we put a reduced price in Latin America, and we saw that it didn't make any difference. For us, at least, like people, it is just a percentage that might pay or not, but if in that specific case, when we reduced the price, we had the same amount of people, but just less revenue. But it is interesting to see and try, because maybe the price is still not very attractive to the users that are willing to spend $1 or $2. And then at last, this is just very simple, and we were like very angry we didn't do it before. We saw a significant increase by just rounding up the euro price, because the Google Play console, like if you do the auto conversion, it rounds, for example, from 0.99, it was 0.89. I think now it's auto converted, but when we understood that, we said, okay, we have to round up every price, because probably it was confusing. People would say, why is it 0.89? And we said, like, in countries like Italy, it had like 45–50% of increase in sales. So that is something very easy to do, and if you have apps distributed there, I suggest you do it. So I have been showing some results, but I wanted to show you like more the big picture of how once we started localizing, how it turned out. So we took here 2 countries, Italy and France, as examples. Let's say that Italy and France were having, without the localized version, so when we're having the 3 languages, let's say 100 downloads every day. So after localizing just the first month, we had 3 times that amount. After 6 months, we had 4 times. And after a year, we had 5 times. So I think it shows quite good the huge potential of localizing, because if you do it on a regular basis and with 15 languages like we did, we had like 3 times the downloads in general. And there are some countries like Indonesia that the growth was 10 times. So I really suggest you do it. And well, before localizing, Asia and Europe was only 18% of the traffic. And after localizing, it's 51%. And the other localized languages are still growing, not like the ones that we localize now. But this gave a huge percentage of new users, and especially in revenue. So these are, I think, the last 2 charts. This is how it looked like, our revenue top grossing countries in Google Play before localizing. So basically, we had US, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and Chile. After localizing, we have the increase, or or interruption of countries like Italy, Germany, and France that are now in our top 5 countries in revenue. And this is something, since all or the majority of the developers are obviously focusing in English, since it is the most important language. It is important to point that now for us, English is still huge, like 44% of the revenue, but the other is much bigger, and all combined, we strongly believe that emerging markets will start gaining every time much more in revenue and in downloads, so we expect to see this emerging market revolution happen. So the last chart is like our top 4 tips of what we think users find valuable in this specific thing, in localizing. So number 1 is having native voiceovers that can give clear instruction to children, especially if you are producing apps for kids under the age of 5 or under the age of 7. It's hugely important for parents to have someone that is guiding the experience. Then we usually, every day we enter to a console and answer reviews in their native language. And sometimes we get a 2 or 3 stars, but after replying in their native language, the outcome is usually that they at least put 4 stars. And we get a lot of updated reviews. Like we get the email and we check, and it happens a lot. So we also localize everything, the store listing, the title. We even try localizing the icons and put a flag. In the last Playtime here in Brazil, we said that was working great. Turned out that once we did the icon experiment, that didn't work as we expected, but still we try to localize everything, even the app title, screenshots, everything. And at last, this is something that we learned by knocking our head a few times against the wall. If you start localizing everything, it's very important that you start thinking in not including a lot of text, because you are much more willing to do errors. So the more images and the more voiceovers you can include, that's the better. So thank you.